Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Developers Digest. So excited to have you back. And I think we've got a really fun episode this week. What we're going to do is have a new co-host this week. Her name is Nora, and I'd like to let her introduce herself. Hey, Nora.
Hello, Josh. Thank you so much for having me. As you said, I'm Nora. I'm also a developer advocate, so focusing on AI topics around SAP. I'm very happy to be here today and guide you all through this episode.
So we're on green screen if people don't know this. We're not actually in the same location. I know through the magic of filming, we look like we're in the same location, but we're connected virtually, and that is because you're located where?
In Hamburg.
Nice.
Where are
Hamburg,
you right
Germany.
now, actually?
I'm actually in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I didn't go into the Newtown Square office today, so I'm about 20 minutes from Newtown Square and hanging out in my home office. And it's interesting today. We may talk more about the weather later, but it is it's not as sunny as it usually is, and not as cloudy. It's just like in between because we have this weird thing in Philadelphia in the May timeframe where it's very cold, and then it'll have a few warm days, and then it gets really cold again. And I've heard about Hamburg weather as well being very much like San Francisco.
Yeah, it's just basically raining all the time, or at least once a day, I would say.
Nice.
You always need a
Very
raincoat
nice.
and your sunglasses, always on the same day.
Wow. That's difficult. I had a question that you mentioned that you cover as a developer advocate, the AI topic. So what did you do before you were a developer advocate?
I was an SAP consultant, also focusing on everything machine learning related. So like HANA stuff, machine learning, but back then also Leonardo. And yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I remember the Leonardo days very well. That was back, I think I was in pre-sales at the time. And I'll
Ah,
never forget walking into Sapphire. And I think Sapphire is happening in the May timeframe around the time we're filming this. And when I went into Orlando and saw this humongous Leonardo, like circular spaceship virtual reality thing, it was very cool. It was an impressive display. So it was nice to be there.
yeah, I can believe that. Yeah, I really like Leonardo. It was a lot of cool stuff, but I'm also happy that we now have AI Core and the AI business services because I think AI Core is super flexible and you can do so many innovative things. And I'm so happy to share so much more content on that in the next
I,
month.
and I think you're going to actually share some content about that during this episode. You have an interview coming up later about AI, right?
I have.
Nice. Well, I'm stealing part of the agenda, and I know that you actually have a list of things we're going to go through. Would you like to share that with the audience?
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to. I think we have a really cool agenda today. We will start with a developer news item that you might have missed. Then we will see Mamikee tell us a little bit more about what's up with ABAP. And after that, we have two great interviews. One that you actually did with Dennis van Kempen on Kyma tutorials, and one of mine on AI ethics with Sebatian Wieczorek. After that, we have Thomas Jung tell us about JavaScript tooling. And then we have your trivia, which I love and hate because I still don't know the last letter of last time. And I hate when I don't know the answer to something, and I hate not finishing something. So I'm just super excited to finally get the answer today because you wouldn't tell me before.
Well, that's not the fun. If you cheat, it's not fun, right? And we had a few people that did guess the right answer, but they didn't want to be called out completely publicly. Maybe they felt like it was too much pressure. But during the trivia segment, I'll mention their first names, so at least you don't know exactly who it was, but they know who they are.
Okay.
So, and I'll push hard to have more people if they want to just publicly on Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever they see a video about the developer advocates talking and this trivia question from our Developers Digest. I'll just push them to go ahead and say what you got and give us your answer and get some credit for being involved in the trivia game.
Yeah, definitely.
So, that being said, there is so much content there, and I know we want to keep the show to around 30 minutes. But if you noticed on YouTube, as an audience member that was watching last month's episode, we put chapters down with timestamps, so you can jump straight to the segment that you like. So if you definitely want to see my interview with Dennis, you can click on that chapter, and we'll have the AI interview is another chapter you can jump right to. So don't feel like you have to watch all 30 minutes, even though I think you should because it's a great show. But we have this content separated out by chapters, so you don't feel overwhelmed. You have to watch everything. But I wouldn't skip anything. I know you wouldn't skip anything. And that being said, let's dive right into the first segment, which I believe you said was a developer news segment from last week, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's enjoy.
Developer News.
Developer News.
Developer News.
It's May, and as you probably heard, it's Low Code, No Code month in the SAP community. Loads of blogs, discussion, events, tutorials, badges, and all kinds of things. Like Diana's video on what SAP is doing in the low code, no code space, and also the new learning journey where you can get certification in low code, no code development. All of the content is divided into 4 weeks. So this week is material about introducing the no-code, low-code toolset. Week 2 is about application development, SAP AppGyver and SAP Business Application Studio. Week 3 is about SAP Process Automation. And Week 4 is about digital experience, which includes SAP WorkZone and Launchpad. I want to highlight 2 special initiatives. First is my 100 Days Challenge, where I'll be learning over the course of 100 days the low-code, no-code toolset, and I will tweet and blog about my experiences and hopefully provide you with a learning journey and tips and tricks on how to navigate the toolset. And the second initiative is our no-code challenge. Just build an application with SAP AppGyver, tell us about your experiences, positive and negative, and you can win a no-code hoodie. I don't even have one, and I've been trying real hard to get one. As always, all of the details are in the description.
That was a great news clip. I hope you enjoyed it. But Josh, didn't you recently meet with Mamikee for an update on what's up with ABAP?
I did. Mamikee and I got together, and she has a great update on the What's Up with ABAP segment. I think you enjoy it, and I really don't want to talk too much about it because I think I'll give too much away. So I think we should just play that clip.
Fair enough. Here you go.
Thank you, Josh and Nora. Here's what's up with ABAP. For those who never attended a CodeJam before, it's a developer community focused event where you can check out specific SAP technology through simple end-to-end exercises. SAP CodeJam on-site event are 5 to 6 hours hands-on coding and networking event where attendees share their knowledge and collaboratively develop with SAP technology, platform, and tools in a fun and casual environment. We'll be there to guide you through the exercises, answer your questions, and share relevant insights on the topics. All you need to do is have your machine and time. The SAP CodeJam is scheduled for Thursday, June 2nd at SAP Newtown Square office. We'll introduce attendees to the SAP Business Technology Platform ABAP environment, aka Steampunk, and the ABAP RESTful Application Programming Model RAP. The event will be for ASUG members only. Please do not forget to register. Space is limited. Don't forget to also check out the ABAP CodeJam group on groups.community.sap, where you can connect and collaborate with other ABAP CodeJam attendees, instructors, and experts around the globe.
That is so cool, Mamikee. I'm so happy that we're doing CodeJams on site. I think the audience is going to be happy as well.
Yep.
But can you clarify something for me? You said this is an ASUG event, so not everybody can go to this CodeJam?
Yeah, so this first one will be ASUG members only. So you'll have to be an ASUG member, and then you'll register for the CodeJam itself.
Okay, so usually CodeJams are open to anybody.
Yep,
This is a special case. So if you have a topic that you want us to cover in a CodeJam, we'll come out with an instructor, 30, 40 people, and walk you through the topic. It could be on Steampunk, or it could be another SAP technology.
Yep, so for that one, just look forward to the other CodeJams that we'll be having, and then we'll definitely have another one for ABAP that will be open to everyone also. So look out for that one too.
Cool, thank you very much.
No problem.
That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that CodeJams are back.
I am too, Nora. It's one of these things where I really like being in front of the audience and being able to do the hands-on training. And if you want to have a CodeJam, it doesn't just have to be associated with an ASUG event. If you've got enough people in your community that want us to come out, reach out to the developer advocates and let us know what topic. And if it's on a list of things that we can cover, we'll come out and we'll do a CodeJam with you.
Yeah, that's great. Let's now move on to our interviews. And why don't you start with yours, Josh?
Yep. I'm very excited to have this interview with Dennis. I sat down with him to talk about all the things he does with his video series of Kyma tutorials. It's a pretty complex, microservice topic, but Dennis does a good job of explaining it in a very simple way that's easy to follow, and I hope everybody enjoys them. Thank you for joining Developers Digest. We've got Dennis, who's going to do an interview with us about Kyma. How you doing, Dennis?
I'm doing good. Thanks for the invitation, Josh.
Glad to have you. As I've told you, this show, Developers Digest, is kind of it's a floating show with different segments that us, the developer advocate team, are putting together. We've got our developer news. We've got different segments on programming that we do with Tech Bites. And we also promote things like open source code and ABAP. But when it comes to Kyma and cloud native, it's a very big topic within the BTP section. And the business technology platform connecting microservices and doing things can get very granular. And if you're not used to it, it becomes very difficult to understand what we're trying to accomplish. So I wanted to actually promote, and I did a walk and talk where that's what I just, walk around and talk about a subject that I find that's interesting to me, and I think our audience can enjoy. And I found all of your video tutorials that you've written blog posts about. So I'm hoping you could explain how you wrote those and the audience that you're trying to reach with them.
Certainly. Yeah. Well, I work as part of the HANA Academy, right? And we've been around, I think, almost 10 years. Yeah, we're up for an anniversary this year. And we got started with the idea of making it easy for our customers, for our partners to understand, to work with our technology. So we put it out there on YouTube, so it's easy to find. And it's for free, so you don't, there's no walls. It's just there for you to learn. So we did that nice. While the HANA platform grew, and at some point our team was included within the partner organization. So our focus now is primarily what they call partner enablement, and make it easier for partners to work with our technology. And we kept the name as sort of as a brand because a lot of people inside SAP in the ecosystem already know the HANA Academy, but our focus is partner enabled. Now there are of course a lot of partners who have a long-standing relationship with SAP, and so they have their contacts. They may have access to our learning hubs, etc. But there are also maybe a lot of partners who maybe work today with SAP, but tomorrow they might work with another company. So it's what they call more of the low touch in the terminology, and so that is our primary focus. So we create our video tutorials primarily, and I do some blogging, some articles around it to make that more accessible, and basically to show partners what's there. How can you use it? So that's basically was the idea. And we don't have a very strict program. So I saw Kyma coming up. I say, okay, of course, a lot of Kubernetes is a big topic in the overall technology space. A lot of companies are working with Kubernetes. SAP has been not the first one working with that technology. And so, of course, with Kyma, a way of how that might be something that could be useful in our technology portfolio. So that's why I looked into it, and while discovering how it works, you record videos, you write blogs. That's basically how we work. We figure out how it works, how the technology can be useful, and then show it. So that's how this came about.
I like to say that with something as big as Kubernetes and containerized applications, you can't consume it all as a beginner unless you start literally at the beginning, which is you build an application and you run it in a container for the first time. And so, it could be something with Docker. We know Docker is something that could be used enterprise or as open source code. And then you move into the idea of understanding things like Istio and more complex pieces of the microservices eventing that has to happen. And you could have an application running in a container that needs to talk to another container. And this could be the same as apps from SAP talking to other apps at SAP. And how do they connect? And that's where we saw the business technology platform, not just exclusively as a runtime, but as a way to just throw some stuff into a Kyma layer where you can do that eventing between different things. And so I've worked closely over the past several years with the Kyma team to try to promote the idea that this is an open source project. It is open source from SAP, just like Project Gardener, which is the underlying layer that's managing the Kubernetes systems that are being built up in the business technology platform. So we don't want people to care about things like what's your hyperscaler named and what are you paying your hyperscaler to stand up all these clusters. We want you to actually love the fact that your application opens when it needs to, and then it closes once you're done. So you're within the SAP family, but you're using code that was never thought, like you mentioned, the HANA Academy, right? This isn't ABAP. This isn't HANA. This is using cutting edge cloud native technology inside of an SAP platform.
Yeah, that's I think is a very promising technology. I think we're gonna hear a lot more about Kyma and Kubernetes this year and the upcoming years. It's going to be very useful, especially for event-driven applications. So I think it's important for our partners to understand what's available today, and what might be coming up this year, and so how to work with it for sure.
So if I'm a developer at an SAP partner, what am I going to get out of going through the video tutorials that you published?
Well, what I recorded was material just how to familiarize with what's available. So how do you get started? What exactly is it that, I mean, if you launch a service, what exactly have you just done? Oh my God, what have I done? It's like, so you see the how the bits and pieces work together. We go a little bit under the hood to show the components there. How to connect to the different backend systems. We did some recordings on S/4HANA on SuccessFactors, and there's some more stuff coming up, and how to work with it. But to be honest, I'm in discovery mode myself. I'm just going through this and figuring out, okay, what's important, what's relevant, and what's just too much plumbing, too technical. That's maybe not something. I mean, before you go into some rabbit hole, and it doesn't really produce anything, right? You want to keep it something that's useful for you today, and then you can't. I mean, the whole Kubernetes space is so vast that you don't necessarily need a PhD in all the stuff to be able to work with it. You just need to know, what's relevant for me for the problem I'm trying to solve today, and cover that. So we're just like our partners, but we're just still in discovery mode and figuring things out and how to work it. But typically recording while learning, and then hopefully for other people to benefit from that.
Awesome. All right. I think that covers what I wanted to introduce to the audience today. Any final thoughts from you?
No, just have fun working with Kyma. It's very interesting and very promising technology. Thanks, Josh.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Welcome back. I hope everybody enjoyed that interview with Dennis. It was a very fun time talking with him, and I hope you enjoy his video tutorial series.
I definitely agree. That was very interesting and something I hadn't seen yet. And talking of things we don't see so often, my topic is AI, and that is something that you don't see so often, Josh. So why don't we show my interview now that I had on AI ethics with Sebatian Wieczorek. Hello, Sebatian. Thank you so much for your time again. I'm so happy to have you here and talk to you about AI ethics today. You are our Vice President for Artificial Intelligence Technology at SAP, and you're also part of the AI Ethics Committee. So what motivated you to be part of the AI Ethics Committee?
Yeah, I'm a technical guy. I have a technical background, but I'm also, always been interested in like a hobby in philosophical topics. So I think it was a no-brainer for me as there was a chance to combine it to also look into this part. So
what does the AI Ethics Steering Committee actually do, and how do you work together with the AI Ethics Advisory Panel?
Yeah, the steering is a collaboration of senior leaders of our company that came together from all different parts, and they're as the name suggests, they're steering the way the company is acting upon AI ethics topics and issues, and the advisory panel is there to support these senior leaders in their decision-making process. So, of course, we're all not the expert, or we're just starting to become experts in AI ethics. but then it's good to have this kind of external expertise that we can draw into, and that's what we're using the advisory panel for. And I have to say that it's helping a great lot to get their feedback on the processes, on the policies that we're developing, but also on individual cases where we draw them in and get their assessment, get their opinion.
So you said they advise you on use cases. Are there certain use cases that SAP would not work on because of AI ethics?
Yes, I think it's quite clear that when we talk about ethics, there are areas for everybody, I assume, or something is wrong in general. So for everybody, I think in this world, when you want to be when you want to do good things, if you want to be doing morally, from a morally perspective, the right thing, that there are things that you don't touch or you don't want to do. And of course, for SAP, there are red lines as well. Like, for example, we don't want support or do public surveillance technology. So these are use cases that we're not supporting. Or of course, when there's a clear attempt to do something that is damaging the environment, then of course we would also not engage. So these red lines exist, and they're clearly called out. When you look into the AI policy that we have been setting up, they're also explicitly mentioned there.
Have you ever had a use case you had to turn down? I mean, I don't want any details. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm sure you want details, but so interestingly, my view on humankind is that the people generally want to do good things, and I think that's certainly true for SAP employees.
That's good to know. Okay, so assuming as a developer, I don't really care about AI ethics. What do you think are the biggest risks when ignoring AI ethics, or why do you think AI ethics are important?
Yeah, as I said, I don't think that we have developers that do not care. So my experience is that people usually maybe I tell you a story. The thing is, I was investigating into actually an HR case, and I talked to the AI developer, and I asked some questions, and this guy I was talking to, he felt really bad, because usually you would assume that, or like the people assume that if you have, for example, discrimination or potential discrimination by an AI, it's because you have white male people who are developing it, and then obviously the outcome of it is white male people get the bonus. And here also some experiments suggested that this may be the case, that this algorithm may favor white male, but this guy wasn't, right? If the assumptions that I made were right, then he would have clearly been on the side of being discriminated, and he was feeling so bad that he didn't think about it himself, that he was thinking about how to technically solve it. I think that's a common discussions that I have in case people don't do something. They usually don't deliberately do that. They do that because they don't know.
So do you think there's a global consensus on AI ethics with other big tech companies?
I would say that when you think about guiding principles and the guiding principles that we set up at SAP in general, and you compare that to what other big players have been setting out, you see that they're very much the same or very similar. And when you look at it from a scientific perspective, there have been very good work on comparing also guiding principles to what governments have been putting out, or what organizations like OECD have been putting out. The EU has been creating guiding principles. I was involved in what the Enquete Commission in Germany has been defining. You see that it's converging to the same or to very similar principles. And even when you compare that to, for example, what the Chinese government is putting out, it also converges to the same thing. The interesting part is the interpretation of it. So when you break it down to actions, then you're prioritizing the different principles against each other, right? And there are differences.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned governments. Do you think we need more laws regulating AI or the use of data in general?
there are a lot of regulations right now already that are doing this risk management, and I think AI is posing, let's say, additional challenges in some area, but in many areas it's just answering or providing to the same or to common issues that are already there. So discrimination is already there, transparency issues are already there, right? So I think rather than creating a targeted regulation framework for AI only, what we should do is we should look at our regulations for all these industries and update them with the to also cater for the specific threats of AI in case there are any.
Yeah, that's a good point. So what do you think are the biggest challenges in AI ethics right now, or your biggest concerns for the future?
If we're reaching people and we're able to infuse the idea that we can do a lot of good things with AI, we just have to make sure that certain side conditions are met, and that we take care of I don't know, a few very simple things like human autonomy or privacy or things like that, that then we actually can use it for the wider good, and that's what I think we all want to see and all want to work with.
I think those are really good words to end the interview. Thank you so much for your time again and for talking to me about AI ethics. And I think it was really interesting. I learned a lot, and I'm very, very excited to share this with our audience. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Wow, that was a very cool interview. Thank you so much, Nora, for bringing that to the audience. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see more AI topics from you and your team. And I hope that everybody else gets to learn more from you.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I really like talking to Sebastian too. Let's now move on to our last segments for today. We have Thomas Jung on JavaScript tooling. He has a great blog post series. Actually, he has many great blog post series, but one of them on JavaScript tooling. After that, we have your trivia. And first of all, let's check the weather. So Josh, how's the weather like?
It's cloudy.
Great reporting, Josh, as always. Now we see Thomas Jung on JavaScript tooling.
Thanks, Nora and Josh. This next segment, I want to share with you a little deliverable that I've been working on that involves a series of blog posts as well as code samples to go along with them. Now, this all started, a few weeks back. I was talking to someone online who was a longtime JavaScript developer, but was fairly new to the HANA world. And they were going through the various libraries or NPM modules that are available for JavaScript, Node.js developers working with HANA. And they noticed that there were multiple modules from SAP, all having to do with HANA. Their first question to me was, well, which one is the official one? And of course, that started a much longer conversation because there's actually two official ones, and then some helper modules and other associated things.
So I've decided to turn that conversation into a series of blog posts and code samples. The first blog post really focuses on the two main JavaScript modules for HANA development, HANA Client versus the HTTP module. We talk about why there are two different modules, pros and cons of using each, hopefully help you make a decision on which one it works best for your project. In part two, we look at the impact of asynchronous processing in general and how promises can help simplify the development aspects of working with asynchronous code, particularly in light of the HANA clients. Then in part three, we look at more wrappers that are available around the base HANA clients that simplify things like stored procedure access, as well as bringing more promise support to the modules that don't have it natively. We also looked at how these HANA client tools can be used inside of Express to create your own RESTful service endpoints that expose data from the HANA database. And finally, in part four, we look at other programming approaches, such as the legacy approach of using XSJS compatibility mode and the more future-facing approach of using the SAP Cloud Application Programming Model. But the blog post series isn't the only deliverable that we created here. There's also code samples in the SAP Samples repository on GitHub that go along with this blog series. In the sample repository, you'll find every code snippet that's used in the blog post, and even some that I didn't end up using. They're all detailed in line in real examples that you can execute yourself after you just connect your project to either your HANA on-premise system, your HANA Express, or your HANA Cloud free tier instance, for example. All of them should work with these code samples. You can execute them locally, just using the test scripts that are in the package JSON. There's also a full unit test suite that you can run. So you can just come here to the unit test suite and kick it off, and that will run all the tests together in one batch. There's even a nice little formatted report that will come out of your test runs that you can have a look at here. So hopefully the code sample combined with the blog post really help you to explore these concepts fully.
Now, whether you're a longtime JavaScript developer or you're just new to it and a longtime HANA developer, I hope that you found something interesting and helpful in this new content. And be sure to go check out the full version that's available on GitHub in the SAP Samples repository, or the blog posts that are available in the SAP community for all the details of what we've talked about here. With that said, back over to you, Nora and Josh.
Thank you very much, Tom. Great series. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And now we're going on to another series that I love, which is my trivia segment. Check it out.
Trivia.
That's right. It's time for our second month of Developers Digest Trivia. Now, last month, I had a couple of people, Gail and Arun. They didn't want to be called out with their full name and their Twitter handles, but they did answer the question correctly of what 4 letters of the alphabet does SAP not use in the names of its products. So those letters were J, X, Z, and V. So if you want to keep up with what product names we have, I have a link that I'll put in the description, and you can see if SAP ever changes those letters and adds a product that starts with those letters or takes them away. Now for this month's trivia question, you may or may not know top-tier software. If you started with top-tier software and were acquired by SAP, or if you worked on the NetWeaver team, you definitely know top-tier software, because that's where our product NetWeaver came from. Do you know what year, though, that we acquired top-tier software? I'll give you multiple choice. 1999, 2000, 2001, or 2002. What year did we acquire top-tier software that turned into our SAP NetWeaver product? Talk to you next month.
Thank you so much, Josh. I'm really happy I was able to be your co-host today. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, Nora. I think you brought a lot of great content to the show, as well as just helping me get through all these segments in the agenda. I really appreciate that. And I think that with your following on social media, we can ask more people to comment on the show, ask us questions, and get more people to really make this their show, because that's what's important to me, is that people enjoy this Developers Digest recap, so they see all the segments that the team is offering and they get to dive deeper into the subjects that they care about.
Thanks everyone for watching, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Let's go.